welcome back to today's podcast episode. I'm filming from my office for something a little bit different, but also because I am quickly recording this for you guys in between clients. So I'm on a little bit of a time crunch, but I am going to get through as much as I can on this super juicy topic. So what actually prompted me to do this episode for you guys was an Instagram reel that I put out. I mean, by the time you're listening to this, it's probably going to be maybe like a month ago. And I put this Instagram reel out about how, like, some of the things that I personally do in our relationship that allows us to still have that very feminine and masculine polarity, even though I am the breadwinner. And to add a layer on top of this, I am the breadwinner and my fiance works for me. So I've seen a lot of people starting to have these conversations and around women making more money and being the breadwinner and kind of what that means. And so I'm going to dive into a little bit of that today. But what sparked me to make this was actually the comments in this reel. We'll link the reel below for anybody that wants to add a nice comment to it. But basically, of course, I mean, I'm so used to it by now, is people are projecting their own thoughts on this. It's, people kind of took my words and twisted them, or decided that I was in a financially abusive situation, and just completely forgot the fact that I had said this is what helps me. And people always have to be like, well, I don't agree with this. This isn't what I do. And I'm like, I didn't ask what you did. I just shared what I do. Anyway, but it prompted me to record this podcast. And I was saying this to my assistant the other day, of the comment section is great market research. And it really actually proves my point of the stickiness that we have around this topic of women making more money than men. And it's funny because it's the kind of thing where in the female empowerment world, it's very much like, you go girl, and like, yes, make more money than him and blah blah blah. But then it also is like such a taboo thing, and at the same time women are pulling you down and berating you and saying like you're in a financially abusive situation if you're the female breadwinner, and like, you're letting him, you've shared, like, what were some of the examples of what I shared actually, because it was interesting that they, like, this woman was perceiving it as, I was like, I think this is your own stuff, which we know it is, perceiving it as like, this is financially abusive. I'm like, wow, a woman that is making more money, and clearly she, like, most of the time they're going to be really well educated. It's interesting that other women will jump straight to the conclusion of you're in an abusive situation, rather than, oh, she's actually probably really well educated, and so she's making an educated decision about something and probably quite confident in the amount of money that she makes, because otherwise she wouldn't be talking about it. So let me start with this. So I wrote down, here are some of the ways I keep the polarity in my relationship strong, but like still make the money. I receive his help all the time. I don't carry my bags, open the doors, or be the masculine when I don't need to. He organizes everything in regards to travel, ordering at a restaurant, driving, etc. Even when we first dated and I paid with my money, he would take the action of actually paying. I support him in his goals. I let him handle and organize the money. He pays the bills, speaks to our finance guys, etc. He deals with the quote unquote man things in the business that I frankly don't want to deal with, aka tech, legal, finance, etc. And then the last one I wrote down, I couldn't fit anymore. He ensures I get more sleep than him. And I'm like, it's very interesting that from those things, people will jump to, you're in a financially abusive situation, instead of realizing that it's like, I receive his help. I am choosing this. So let's get into this topic. Firstly, if you are not aware of how money negatively or positively influences relationships, it can really fuck the polarity if you're not careful. If you, as the woman, I'm going to assume that you're either making as much money as him, or like a similar amount, or you're making more money than him. If you have not done work around your relationship with money and your wounds around being a woman that's making a lot of money, that can then show up in very like controlling ways in the relationship. And in fact, it's more likely that you are being a little bit financially, if we want to use the word abuse from this chick that wrote it, it's more likely that you're actually being a little bit financially manipulative, let's just say, than him, because you have the money. And for the majority of us, money equals control, which is what we have to remember, because for a lot of women back in the day when they were not making any money or a very small amount of money, they had essentially less control because they didn't really have the ability to just leave the marriage, for example, because they needed their husband to fund their lifestyle. They needed their husband to keep the roof over their heads and to provide, if we're thinking about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, to provide that foundational bottom of like food, shelter, water, etc. So when we think about then women having more money or just as much money as men, it can tip things in a negative direction if you're not careful. Because if you don't know how to engage with your money as a woman, it can then result in you using it as a way to manipulate or to control or lead in certain ways in the relationship, rather than understanding that money is simply a resource and you can use it for good in the relationship. So you need to ensure that you have healed any stickiness and anything in your relationship with money, so that you are not projecting your money issues onto him, but also onto the relationship. There's a lot of research out there now that actually shows that women that make more money than men are more likely to be cheated on, and are more likely to get a divorce. So it's not to say that you shouldn't make more money. Like, that's not what I want to scare you guys into. And actually, I did another episode where I really talked about this whole, if you're the breadwinner, are you more likely to get cheated on? Lydia will link that below for you guys in the description. I would highly recommend listening to it or re-listening to it, because the issue isn't women making more money than men. The issue is what they are doing with that. The issue is how they are engaging with that. And I know for us as women, the issue with us making a lot of money is what happens to him. What happens to his leadership? Does he now just become like a mummy's boy, or not become like, as in you're the mummy, not like his mummy? Does he just become lazy? Is he not showing up and working hard? Are you now doing everything? Has everything been put on your plate and your mental load is so fucking massive because you're like completely responsible for keeping a roof over everybody's head? And that's where my program, the Feminine Female Breadwinner, would be really helpful for a lot of you. I have broken down like in great detail everything that will help you to navigate being the female feminine breadwinner, so that it doesn't affect your polarity. Even just for example, ensuring that you are not wearing the pressure of your work or your income is the thing that is funding the food and the shelter. Now, of course, some of you might be like, well, Monica, you're the one funding the food and the shelter because your fiance works for you, so you're paying him. I explain how all of that works in the Feminine Female Breadwinner and how we've navigated that, because he has provided me with so much security and safety that I know that if I got to a point where I was like, babe, I can't pay you anymore. I can't deal with this. I don't like it. I don't like you working for me anymore. It's completely just like throwing me off. I don't want this pressure on my head, blah, blah, blah. He'd be like, cool, no worries. And he would go find another job, no problemo. Yes, we've had those conversations, as in not the conversations of like, I want you to go find another job, but the conversations of, I like, that is a thing should I need it. Some of you shared, like some of you asked in the comments, like, this is not even asked, said, this is really sad. What's going to happen when you become a mother? Like, everything is going to be on your shoulders. And again, it's that, remembering that obviously Instagram doesn't have context, but I'm going to do episodes on this for you guys. And I really already have. We are setting ourselves up for success for that period of my life, because he absolutely does not want all of the pressure to be on my shoulders. In fact, he's told me multiple times, and he'll probably tell you guys when I finally get him on the podcast when that day finally happens, where he's like, okay, fine, is like he feels more pressure. Like, he says that he feels more pressure than I even do, because he doesn't even just have the pressure of ensuring like my business succeeds. He also has the pressure of not wanting me to feel the pressure. Does that make sense? Like, that is his protector and provider kind of coming out in just a different way. So for a lot of us, we make money a very masculine thing. And what that means is that we only feel safe with a man when he is the one bringing in all the money. And we have not learned how to value other qualities that is still kind of under that umbrella of protect and provide, that would that isn't him bringing money in, but it would still make you feel safe, protected, and provided for. So you need to make money a neutral thing, because in making money a neutral thing, it takes a lot of that emotional charge out of what money can feel like for a lot of us. And it also helps you to redefine what his role is in the relationship as the masculine man. Because I'll be honest with you guys, it's not always easy being the one that's making the money. But when I'm really honest with myself, I'm like, bitch, I don't really think you'd have it any other way. Like, I have always, like, from the beginning of us dating, I obviously made a lot more money than him. And maybe not obviously, but I did because I ran my own business. Like, my business makes more money than him. He made a lot of money, and it just ended up working out that, it was really supportive for him to be working for me. Is it always easy? No. Like, we'll do episodes on that, when he comes on the podcast. It's definitely not always easy him being in the business. But what I will say is that when there are hard moments in the business, or when there are moments where I'm like, I don't want to fucking deal with this, the ability that I have to just pass that shit off to him, that allows me to feel provided and protected for. Like, I don't do any of the finances anymore. I don't pay our fucking bills. I don't deal with lawyers. I don't deal with any of that stuff. And that to me makes me feel so safe and protected, because I can just pass that heavier stuff. Like, it feels heavy for me in terms of like, I really don't like doing it. I find it very confusing. It's very head dominant. It drains the living daylights out of me. When I used to have to get on accounting meetings, I would literally have to take a nap afterwards, because I feel like I've used every single brain cell in there, that I have nothing left to give. So the fact that I can pass that off to him is like immeasurable. That is worth so much. There's no one else that I can trust more with the business's money, with my money, with my future, than obviously him, because he is the only other person. My mom has said this to him like a million times. He is the only other person that will ever be as invested in the business as I am, because it also is a thing that's keeping him fed and keeping a roof over his head. So I'm not saying we all need to go start working with our partners. What I'm saying is that for those of you that either are working with your partners or are not working with your partners, but you're making as much money or more money, there are so many other ways that he is able to provide and protect for you. And in that program, it's $397. In that program, the Feminine Female Breadwinner, I break everything down for you. And actually, I made that for men and women. So when I ran it live, there were men on the call asking questions as well. And so it's really beneficial for the two of you. And it's actually included in the VIP package for the man, because there is so much in there around women's needs with money and with safety and with polarity, because it's not just like how to handle money. That's not very, like, not super helpful. It's not just how to handle money in a relationship, because that's also very personal. It's giving you the powerful questions and tools and strategies so that you can make a plan for yourself in your relationship with your partner in a way that suits you, your, like, the amount of money that you make, your lifestyle, whether you have kids, all of those things. Because the kind of like outcome that I want you guys to get to, so that you're not feeling this strain of being the woman that's making a lot of money, and then obviously what, the issues, if you'll say, that can cause, like, my outcome is for you to actually feel supported and understood with your needs around money, him protecting, him providing, him being the man of the house, etc. Additionally, if we're not careful with healing our, with like, if sorry, start again. If we haven't healed our relationship with money, and therefore we're bringing those issues and those projections into our relationship, and obviously that's going to negatively affect him and you as a result of it. So if you make a lot of money and you haven't healed your relationship with money, there's going to be some stickiness that's brought into the relationship, which I'll go into some more examples and details in a second. But what I want to say is that it's very essential that you are not carrying any wounds around money and being a woman, because that is going to affect not only just the polarity day to day, but it's also going to affect emotional intimacy. It's going to affect you feeling understood. It's going to affect you feeling seen, and it's going to affect your sex life and your safety. It could even go as far to affect your cycle, because in order for us to have balanced hormones, in order for our root chakra to feel really safe so that we can bring a baby into the world. We need to feel safe. And we hold the energy of scarcity in our root chakra. Or abundance in our root chakra, right? And so, but if you're holding this energy of scarcity, and by the way, you could make a fucking mozza, but still feel scarce because of how money is engaged within your relationship, that could very well be affecting the other goals that you have for your personal life or your professional life. Let's remember, ladies and gentlemen, women have never in history been able to easily make so much money. And so we need to, ladies, be aware of our own wounds so we don't just project them onto him. And gentlemen, you can also be aware of the fact that for the vast majority of women, it's a very new thing to make this much money. We haven't exactly been modeled it from our mom. Like, I don't know about like some of you guys, you had moms that made a lot of money, but my mom, she had her businesses on the side, but she focused on being a mom. And I'm honestly internally grateful for her for doing that. And she always jokes about the times, and I remember this of like when she would be working too much. I mean, we get so pissy at her because we'd want like better dinners. Like, God, the pressure we would put on her, poor thing. Anyway, my point is that even the gentlemen listening to this, you guys can be cognizant of how we are really, for the vast majority of us, the first generation of women that are navigating, making, like bringing all of this dough to the table, and how that then influences us and our behavior in the relationship, and whether we're emasculating you because of it, and our kind of like protectiveness around the money that we're making. Because for a lot of women, we can get very protective. And I know I had to navigate this in the beginning as well. We can get really protective over the amount of money that we're making. Of like, we don't want to fucking share it because we've never had to share the money because we haven't made the money, right? Whereas for men, they get so much purpose out of making money because that money is then used for them to be the provider and the protector. And so they want to share it. Whereas like, we don't want to be the provider and the protector. So it's like, I don't want to make all this money and then have to provide and protect. I want to make this money and like, go on holidays and buy nice clothes and like get my dream house, et cetera, et cetera. So again, I go into really the nitty gritty of how in the Feminine Female Breadwinner, which you can watch with your man if you want. But my point of this is we need to be cognizant of the fact that we, for the most of us, have never been modeled what it looks like to stay in a polarized relationship that make a lot of money. Because for a lot of women that make a lot of money, it is really affecting their dating experience. They're hanging it over a man's head. They're emasculating a man, and they're using that to prove their worth or prove their power. Rather than, you can be a woman that makes a fuckload of money and still doesn't pay for the dates. Like, I have never paid for a date with my fiance. Never. Even when he took me to the Ritz-Carlton, which is where we met like on that chairlift. If you haven't heard the stories about the love story of how we met and all that kind of stuff, there is, I think, a 3-part series, or at least 2-part of all of that. We can link that below, or you can just go to the podcast directory and search love story and then you'll see it. My point is our first weekend together after we met the week prior, he took me back to the Ritz-Carlton. Like, that place ain't cheap. It's in Beaver Creek, Bachelor's Gulch. If you know it, you know it. It is absolutely fucking beautiful. And, he made back then, like, he made a lot of money, so it was totally fine. But that wasn't something that he would do regularly. It wasn't like, he's a smart financial guy. So it wasn't something where he would, say that like, oh, that's a smart financial decision and like it goes within my budget and like blah, blah, blah. But a man that wants you is going to fucking claim you, and he's not going to let money be the thing that necessarily holds him back. Now, granted, we all have our own like financial situations, la, la, la. My point of this is that I was not using my money in the beginning of our relationship as some kind of thing to hold over his head, because that would not have made him feel like he was enough of a man. So it's really being cognizant of this balance of, men like to spend their money on us, right? They like to be the provider for us. So it's being cognizant of that, but also being aware that you don't want to use your money in a way that could emasculate him. But there is also so much beauty in you making a lot of money and bringing that to the table in a way that feels really, really good for you. So let me go through some of the myths and like assumptions, let's just say, from this Instagram post. So there was one that was like, what was it? There was a proud one. Hold on a second. I want to get that one. That was a good one. Okay, there was one, maybe she deleted it. There was one that was basically like saying that he's just not proud of me because I make more money. Ladies and gentlemen, just because a woman makes more money, just because I make more money, absolutely does not mean my man, like that was the most random comment, does not mean that my man is not proud of me. In fact, it's the opposite. My man is so proud of me all the time. Ladies, don't think that a man is going to be more proud of you if you aren't making as much money. Maybe that's why she deleted the comment, because she realized that she's just saying that she thinks that she's more worthy as a woman if she makes less money. If a man is more proud of you because he makes less, because you make less than him, maybe a problem. Like, look for the other red flags if there are any. Like, everyone's in their own relationship. You want a man that is so fucking proud of you, no matter what you're doing, no matter how much money you're making, no matter whether you are more successful than him or less successful than him. If he ain't proud of you, please don't marry him. Please don't be in a relationship with him, because that is an absolute problem. There was also quite a few comments about women feeling sorry for me. So there was one in particular that was like, hold on, where was it? I genuinely hate that you even have to worry about this. And so this is where it's like, for some women, they're very much, I don't want to be the breadwinner. I don't want to make any money. I don't want to have to worry about this. And I completely respect that. And I frankly fucking get it, because like that is a nice feeling. Like, you don't have to worry about those things, and you're doing other things. But here's the thing. I don't really worry about it. And this is where we need to remember, with like obviously Instagram posts, but also just with this topic, that everyone is having their own experience with it. And I know for some of you that being the breadwinner, you fucking hate it. And that you do feel this constant pressure all the time, and you don't want this to be the case, and you don't like it. And I completely see you and honor you and respect you for that, because it really can be hard. But the thing is, this comment of like, I hate that you have to worry about this. I'm not worrying about it, because I am so in my power that if this was something that was putting that much worry and pressure on me, I wouldn't be doing it. I would be asking my fiance to go get another job and to bring dough to the table that was covering what I wanted to be covered, and me not having to pay him. Like, if you know my page, if you listen to my podcast, you know that like, I that would not be the reality of like me being worried and feeling all this pressure. Like, that would not be a thing, because I wouldn't allow it. Um, so if you as a woman are obviously feeling this like massive burden around it, that is worth exploring of really what's going on beneath the surface. But to me, it's not a worry, because for me, I fucking love running my business. For me, it is easy for me to make money. I'm not struggling to make money. We're not sitting on like 5 grand in the bank. If I wanted to not make a single dime and not show up for 3 years, I could still pay my team, my book team. I could pay our mortgage. I could live our life for a number of years without actually needing to make any more money. It's not, there is no pressure and struggle for me to make money, because of course, if there was, if you guys know me, then I would be ensuring that our, basic needs were getting met and organized by my fiance and him not working for me. But that's not the case. For me, what allows me to actually make more money and show up with even more ease and feel even less pressure, honestly, for the most part, is him doing all the things that he's doing with his work, because I can just pass that shit off to him. He takes all of those heavy loads, he does all those logistical things. So it allows me to stay in the elements of what I fucking love, what lights me up, what feels easy. It allows me to focus on the marketing, the selling, the coaching, the podcast, the writing, the programs. Like, that is what lights me up. And when I'm just focused on that, when my stress is low, when things are easy breezy, that's what makes me money. And so even when we're traveling, for example, he knows that by handling all of these like logistical pieces, and me just being like la di da, he knows that me being in that energy, money comes in easily, right? Everything's happening organically. So part of you, especially if you're a business owner, part of you making more money with your partner and like that than your partner, and that actually being like fine and not affecting the polarity, is the way that you guys work it out, your communication around it, whether you actually have gotten clear on what you need to make this work so that you're not feeling burdened by it. You need to ensure that you feel safe speaking your truth and drawing boundaries and having boundaries within yourself and communicating these things, because that's where most of the problem occurs, is the lack of communication, is the lack of boundaries, and most importantly, the lack of speaking your truth. And so all this resentment builds. And then because of the resentment, the money is like, you making a lot of money is then used against him. I also just want to put a caveat in here. Ladies, men are having their own experience too with you making a lot of money. No one's experience is more right or wrong by any means. And I did a whole podcast on the dark side of personal development. Listen to that if you are thinking that your experience is more important or more right than his. I understand that sometimes it can feel like, well, I'm a woman, so like my struggle is more legitimate than yours, or like it's harder for me because I'm a woman and like we have to deal with like the mental load of also cooking and cleaning it. I get all of that. But if you're not communicating that to him, if you're not communicating to him that you need help in certain areas, how is he meant to help? Don't just dump it on him. Don't make his experience of how you making more money affects him. Don't make that invalid, because it also can be really hard for men. It also, that's why I've got made this program for men and women. It also can be really hard because they feel like you have control because you make more money. They can just feel emasculated because of that. And that doesn't mean you have to make less money. And it sure as shit doesn't mean that it's your fault by any means. What it means is that this conversation needs to start being had in your relationship to take the tabooness and the heaviness out of it. The more that you talk about money, ladies and gentlemen, the less of a charge money will have in your relationship. Me and my fiance are always talking about money. If you do not talk about money, money will become a problem. Just like if you don't talk about sex, somebody's not going to get their sexual desires met. And 10 years down the track, it's going to turn into a massive explosion of resentment, saying very awful things, and you won't be able to come back from it. So even if there's no money issues in your relationship, take away from this episode the fact that you and your fiance, boyfriend, partner, whatever, need to start actually just talking about money and what money means for you and what money means for him. So let's go through one or two more before I have to jump off of this client. So let's go to this one. And yeah, okay. So some of your suggestions creates a risk of financial abuse, i.e. let him do the man things like dealing with finances. Continuing the narrative that have put women at risk of this for decades is not something I would teach my daughter or any woman for that matter. So anyway, my point is with this one is that if you guys read the post, you'll probably be like, where the fuck did she get this from? You letting him still lead in different ways, like allowing him to pay for dinner, or, him booking all the travel, him holding open the doors, him liaising with like paying the bills, that does not create financial abuse unless you let it create financial abuse. What would have to happen in order for that to create financial abuse is for there to be no openness around the cost of like the gardeners and the bills, you not be able to log into your bank accounts, him not telling you what he's paying, you not being allowed to see the bills. Like that is financial abuse. You letting him do that, you asking him to do that, you feeling so supported by him doing those things, I'm sorry, that does absolutely not create financial abuse. Do you know what that creates? It creates trust. And this is a prime example of a woman that sees that feels as though when a man is leading, she's going to get abused, rather than being able to heal her relationship with men and actually realize that when a man is leading, her body softens, she relaxes, and it builds her trust in him. You doing everything yourself and never letting him lead does not build trust in the relationship. It actually builds fear in the relationship. It creates a lack of trust because you're not letting him do things for you. You're literally not trusting him. So this is not financial abuse. Like, I don't know what else I have to say on that. I don't think any of you guys listening would actually think that it is. But if you think that, letting your man do the finances, organize the bills, like, taking your credit card and paying for the date obviously when you've asked him to, or like you're sitting right there, like you're on the date, he's aware, like it's come out of your wallet, you've passed it to him and he's gone and done it. That is not financial abuse, because financial abuse is happening where you are not, often you're not approving it. If you are approving it, it's looped in with a low level of self-worth and a high level of emotional manipulation. If you've read the post, you're very aware there's no emotional manipulation. And also, if you're aware of my Instagram content and my podcast and just me, everyone's like, this bitch ain't getting emotionally manipulated. Like, she's got her shit together. And also, like, I've got a fucking strong head on my body. Okay. Let's do another one. Cool. Oh, here was a really good one. I was like, this one's weird. Let's see whether she follows me as well. I always love to know. No, she doesn't. I'm like, then why comment? It's so bizarre. The man things in business because tech and finance aren't for women. And then she did like a rolled eyes, because I said I let him do the man things in the business. I didn't say because they're not for women. So she's gone. She's put a question mark. She said the man quote unquote things in business because tech and finance aren't for women question mark. This is an example of like someone obviously taking my words, twisting it, and that's her own perspective. So she's looking through her lens. So she actually thinks, this is always the funny thing. I love like kind of like digging into these. She actually thinks that tech and finance is only for women. So she has seen what I've written and she's believed I've said that, when if you read it, I haven't actually said that. But because she believes that, she thinks I am saying that. Does that make sense? Because it's her perspective. So then she's written, you let him pay with your money because that makes him feel like a man. Get the fuck out. And I'm like, again, completely like just twisted my words. And then she goes, for only $3.97, you too can learn how to keep an insecure man and dim your light. And I don't even really understand this. Anyway, my point for this one is, I mean, what do I even say? I'm like, what do I even say to this one? What I'm going to say to this one is that you being a woman that is making more money absolutely does not mean that he is less of a man. You sometimes paying for things because you make more money does not mean that he is less of a man. You making money does not mean that you are with an insecure man. You making the money and letting him do the finances or like pay the bills or organize the travel or whatever it is in your relationship, that is not you keeping an insecure man and dimming your light, right? So she's saying like, that's dimming my light. You choosing to let somebody else do something for you and support you, you choosing that support, that is closing 15 tabs on that mental load in your brain. That is not dimming your light. That, in fact, is opening up your light. And this kind of comment, and obviously some of the others, just goes to prove that women, so many women, not everyone, not you guys, but so many women truly believe if you let a man lead, you as a woman are then showing that like you're not enough, you're dimming your light. It's like the more that you receive help, the less you are. And a lot of women have that belief that if I receive, I'm then like submissive in a bad way. I'm insecure. I'm dimming my light. I'm not showing my power. Understand what my phrase means of empoweredly submissive. I did a podcast episode on this. In order to actually let a man lead, you are a woman that has the ability to have her own back. You are empowered enough to let go of control, because letting go of control actually takes a lot of confidence, a lot of self-assurance, and boundaries. So a woman that is truly letting a man lead, she is the bitch to watch out for. She's the one that is going to not let you get away with any weird shit. She's going to be the one that's going to call you out, like as in woman to woman or woman to man. She's going to be the one that you're kind of afraid of because she is so empowered that she is actually able to feel safe surrendering. And let's just also tell this Casey chick that no, you know, a woman can do tech and finance too. But as I shared in my post, I don't like doing that. So I let him be the person that does the tech and finance because I don't like doing it. And I feel supported when he is doing it for me. And most of you listening anyway are going to agree that you don't want to sit there and pay a million bills and organize tax. Sorry, and well, that too, and organize finances and deal with like cash flow, either personally or professionally. And when he does that for you, that is him being a protector and a provider, just in a different way, right? He is protecting the money that you are making. He is protecting the family that you guys have. He is providing in the sense of having the financial literacy for you guys to know that you have money if there was an emergency that happened, or if, one of the kids got sick, or, if you had to, like, if you lost your job, or if your business, stopped making a lot of money. He is being the provider and the protector in that sense. So you can just stay focused in like doing the fun stuff with money that we women like to do. That to me is such a beautiful way where he is within that masculine energy and creating that polarity without him necessarily needing to bring more money than you're making to the table. So if you are wondering how I deal with the pressure, quote unquote, like I said before, I don't feel the pressure, or how things will be navigated when I'm a mother, or how we choose what he pays for or what I pay for, all of that is in detail in the Feminine Female Breadwinner. There will be upcoming episodes, and there's already episodes anyway about what I'm doing to transition into motherhood. So we can link some of those suggested ones below in the description. And then there'll be more episodes coming up as well. But for those of you that have a business and you are really like, how is she going to navigate being the one that like her business has to make money and she's going into motherhood and blah, 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 and like her book launch and all that kind of stuff. In August, there will be a new, very big module dropping on everything that I have been doing for the last 2 years to prepare me and my business and obviously our finances for motherhood, so that I don't feel that pressure and I don't feel that weight on my shoulders. So if you want to know about all of that, make sure that you join the Feminine CEO, because there's already so much stuff in there anyway of what I'm doing right now that is continuing to set me up for success during motherhood, and things that I've been doing for like 2+ like in the high tech version, which I give you guys, is like 2+ years, but like the low tech version, which I also give you, is like my whole business. And I'll be following on with those things. There's already a lot in there of everything that I'm doing to take that kind of load off my plate and to make sure that there is that passive income without me feeling like I have to be doing a million things all the time and feeling pressured. Anyway, I hope this episode was helpful and gave you guys some things to think about. And also maybe it was triggering for some of you of how you are perceiving being the female feminine breadwinner in this negative light. Or how, I mean, I don't really think you guys are, but also being aware of how we are projecting these negative things onto men in order for us as women to try and feel a little bit more like stoic and empowered, when really it's just showing like deep insecurity. Just remember, when you are needing to rip somebody else down or like prove a point, that is actually showing your own insecurity. When you are so strong in what you know as your truth, you don't need to, one, rip anybody down for a different opinion. And number two, you don't need to prove it because there's nothing to prove, right? So I love it when I get these comments. And like we had more on yesterday's reel. No, it wasn't the same topic, it was different. I love it because, like I said to you guys at the beginning, it is market research. It literally goes to show how negative women think about like being the breadwinner, not being the breadwinner, allowing support from men, etc. And it's so interesting that 99% of the time, these comments about why you're relying on a man, or like just wait for him to cheat on you and leave you, just wait for him to take all your money, most of them, 99% of them, are coming from women. And it's all a projection of their own stuff. So if you are a content creator and you experience this kind of thing, just remember that it's a projection of their own stuff. If you're seeing these kind of comments on other people's reels, don't let it get into your head, because it's just their insecurity that they're trying to project onto other people to rip them down so they can feel like they are significant in some way, shape, or form. And I'm like, you don't know me and I don't know you, unfortunately. Not unfortunately, Not unfortunately. Okay, I will see you guys in next week's episode. If you haven't left a review, I'd be so grateful if you left a written one below on iTunes. Send a screenshot to media@monicayateshealth.com, and then we will send you a free meditation that you can access immediately, which is all about bringing all of your energy back to yourself. And you cannot download this meditation anywhere else. So you have to leave a review to get it, and we will send it to you. All right, have a good rest of your day, everyone. I'll see you next week.